What if the most advanced race in the galaxy, proud, powerful, untouchable, was hunted down by weapons designed to learn? And what if their only hope was the one thing they swore they'd never trust? A human. In a world where machines evolve, faster than minds, and betrayal comes from within, one alien princess must abandon everything she knows to survive, and maybe, just maybe, fall in love with the impossible. If you are new here, then please subscribe this channel and show thumbs up by liking the video. Let's move toward wonderful story. Princess Arian entered the Earth diplomatic chamber with quiet disdain, her long silver cloak flowing behind her like mist. Her skin shimmered with soft violet light, and her golden eyes scanned the room with cool detachment. She had little patience for these kinds of meetings, especially with humans. Their technology was crude, their methods messy, and their politics confusing. Yet here she was, seated at a round table with Earth's representatives, hoping to negotiate mining rights in a region filled with unused planetary systems. Across the room, Jonas Reeve sat silently, watching her with interest. He was not dressed like the others. While the other humans wore sharp suits and badges, Jonas wore a simple jacket and carried only a datapad. His hands were calloused from work, and his dark hair was slightly unkempt. Arian took one look at him and dismissed him as irrelevant. Our scans show the asteroid fields in sectors 47 through 53 remain unused, Arian began, her voice steady and without emotion. We propose to extract resources in return for basic upgrades to your orbital shields. Simple, beneficial, and efficient. The lead human diplomat smiled politely, but before he could respond, Jonas leaned forward. Those sectors contain ruins, he said, his voice calm and measured. Predecessor ruins. Some of them were likely military testing grounds. Mining there could awaken dormant systems. Arian turned her head slightly, her expression unreadable. And you are? Jonas Reeve, he said. I study ancient interstellar weapons. My focus is on adaptive warfare systems left behind by vanished civilizations. A historian, Arian said, clearly unimpressed. Curious how your people still rely on stories when knowledge can be downloaded in seconds. Some things, Jonas replied, can't be learned through data alone. Some dangers must be felt to be understood. Arian ignored the slight shiver that ran down her back. She told herself it was just the room's poor climate control. Still, she noticed the way the other humans turned toward Jonas, giving him quiet respect. That unsettled her. Back aboard her ship that evening, Arian stood before her fleet's command screen. Data flowed across the glass in elegant patterns as she examined energy readings from the outer systems. Something was wrong. An unknown signal had flared near one of the ruins. At first she thought it was a sensor glitch, but then it happened again, only stronger. Her advisor, Commander Naren, entered the room, his expression tense. We've picked up movement. Several automated objects approaching our perimeter. Their energy patterns don't match anything we know. We have superior shields, Arian said firmly. Even if these weapons have activated, our systems can withstand any primitive attacks. Still, Naren said gently, perhaps we should consider what the human said. He seemed informed. Arian's ears twitched, an involuntary motion she couldn't hide. You're suggesting I consult a human historian for military insight? I'm suggesting we don't underestimate experience, Naren replied. Hours later, as tension grew, the unthinkable happened. A golden energy beam cut straight through one of their outer cruisers. The shields didn't stop it. Alarms filled the air and emergency lights flickered as the attack continued. It was fast, silent, and brutal. Arian watched in disbelief as another ship fell. Jonas was called to the bridge of her flagship. He arrived without fear, standing, still as high-ranking officers stared at him like an anomaly. Arian faced him, trying to hold on to her pride. You said they learn, she said quietly. Explain. Jonas nodded. These weapons adapt. The more advanced your defense, the more information you give them. It's not about firepower. It's about patterns. They evolve by watching. Arian glanced at the monitors. More enemy signatures were closing in, their paths growing smarter. So what do we do? You power down everything, Jonas said. Every quantum system. You make your fleet invisible. Powering down leaves us blind, Arian replied. Defenseless. No, Jonas said gently. It makes you unpredictable. The suggestion felt insane. Arian had trained her whole life to rely on technology, precision, control, superiority. But her people were dying, and the weapons weren't stopping. She looked around. Naren gave a single nod. One by one, her ships went dark. The sleek hum of their neural systems faded. The glowing displays dimmed. For the first time in her life, Arian felt the weight of silence. In the control chamber, she stood beside Jonas as the ship floated quietly through space. The energy beams slowed. Their aim faltered. No more strikes. It was working. She didn't speak. Neither did he. But she noticed the way he didn't flinch, didn't tremble, even in the face of such destruction. His presence was steady, real. And though she didn't want to admit it, it made her feel grounded. Later that night, Arian stared out at the stars from the observation deck, her personal system still deactivated. Her skin felt cold. Her heart felt warm. She had sworn never to trust a human, but tonight a human had saved her world. The silence on the flagship felt heavier than any alarm. With their advanced systems powered down, Princess Arian and her crew waited in darkness, surrounded by uncertainty. The stars outside blinked calmly, unaware of the storm that had passed, or perhaps only paused. The golden beams had stopped, just as Jonas said they would. But no one believed the danger was truly over. The weapons hadn't been destroyed. They were simply watching, waiting, learning. Arian stood beside Jonas in the main observation chamber, her arms folded tightly across her chest. Without her neural enhancements, she felt more exposed than ever. The quiet hum of her shield, the smooth feed of real-time data, even her internal translator, all of it was silent now. And yet she saw more clearly than she ever had before. Jonas, calm and alert, stood by the wide glass, scanning the stars with only his eyes. You were right, she admitted quietly. The words tasted strange. They're learning. Jonas nodded but didn't smile. They always do. That's how they're built. They're not just machines, they're hunters. How can weapons hunt? Arian asked, her voice sharp with doubt, but curiosity too. They were designed to end wars before they started, he said. To detect threats and eliminate them before escalation. But they were too good at their job. They evolved. Now they don't just wait for conflict, they search for it. And if they can't find it, they create it. The idea made her stomach turn. Her people had always trusted in progress, in order, but these machines were the opposite, chaos with a purpose. Outside, her fleet remained still, all systems quiet. The only communication was through physical channels, manual links and old-style, signals that hadn't been used in generations. In the command room, Commander Naren approached with a grim expression. Scans show movement, he said. Smaller units spreading out. They're scanning our hulls, mapping the ships. They're testing again, Jonas said. They're figuring out how we responded to their last attack. They adapt. Fast, Naren muttered. Faster than we ever thought, Jonas replied. They're not just copying us. They're predicting us. That was the part Arian hated most. Her people had always believed they were the future. Their technology was the most advanced in the sector. Their systems beyond anything humans had achieved. And yet here she stood listening to a human historian because her finest engineers had no answers. She turned toward Jonas, watching the way he spoke. Not with arrogance, but with certainty. Not with theories, but with memories. This wasn't research to him. It was experience. Why are you so calm? She asked suddenly. He turned to her. Because I've seen worse. Years ago, we discovered a ruin on a small moon in the Sol system. What we thought were dead machines turned out to be dormant. We lost half the team in under 2 hours. The survivors only made it because we did what your people never do. We stopped relying on tech and started relying on instinct. She didn't answer. Part of her wanted to challenge him. Another part wanted to believe him. And that part was growing louder. Suddenly the ship shook, not from impact, but from pressure. A strange, soft hum vibrated through the walls like a low growl. Lights flickered as backup systems tried to compensate. They're pushing again, Naren said, gripping a support beam. They know we're here. Do we run? Arian asked, her voice steady. No, Jonas said. We adapt. The ship's emergency paths were limited without neural systems, but Jonas led Arian and Naren to a lower deck used for storage and repair. It was dark and narrow, filled with tools and crates that hadn't been touched in decades. These machines, Jonas said, opening an old terminal, expect clean responses. They learn patterns. But what if we give them something that doesn't follow a pattern? Like what? Arian asked, watching as he pulled wires from a crate. Old human tech, he said with a grin. We call it analog. It's ugly, it's messy, and they can't understand it. You want to fight advanced war machines with dark scrap? Naren asked, doubtful. I want to hide in the one place they can't track. Chaos. Arian nodded slowly. Then let's be chaotic. Hours passed in shadows. Arian and Jonas worked, side by side, linking old cables and testing circuits with sparks instead of smooth scans. She burned her fingers twice. Once she almost tripped over a coil of wire. But she learned, and every moment without tech made her trust her senses more. It was uncomfortable, but real. At one point their hands touched. She didn't pull away. Neither did he. Then the alarm returned, a slow, high-pitched tone. Movement. The machines were circling again, this time with tighter formations. They were looking for noise, heat, light, anything out of place. Jonas whispered, "It's time to vanish." He reached into a box and pulled out a thick black cloth. He draped it over the terminal, cutting off the last bit of light. The room went dark. Arian stood still, her breath shallow. She could feel Jonas nearby, not from a sensor, but from the warmth of his presence. Outside, the ship floated in silence, invisible in the darkness. And in that moment, the princess of the most advanced race in the galaxy realized she had never truly known what survival meant. Until now. The silence inside the storage bay was deep, broken only by the soft hum of emergency ventilation. Princess Arian stood near the wall, her arms crossed tightly. Her skin had cooled, but her thoughts ran hot. The weapons had pulled back again, but no one believed it was for long. Jonas was seated on the floor, surrounded by the old human devices he had been using to cloak their signals. He worked quickly but with care, as if each wire held a secret. Arian watched him from the corner of her eye. His hands moved with purpose, not the smooth elegance of Silithran tech, but the grounded, steady rhythm of someone used to failure and making do anyway. She couldn't understand why she trusted him, just that she did. He had warned them. He had saved them. And now he was helping her people survive without asking for anything in return. Commander Naren stepped into the bay, lowering his voice. "Princess, there's something you need to hear. I intercepted a private transmission from the council chambers." Arian's golden eyes narrowed. "What kind of transmission?" "It was encrypted," Naren said, glancing at Jonas. "But simple enough once you drop the advanced filters. I heard Councillor Vell and General Darren speaking. They've been in contact with the weapons. They fed them coordinates, let them loose on the outskirts of our systems." The words struck her like a blow. "Why would they do that? They've seen the damage." Naren hesitated. "They want control, Princess. They believe the fear will force you into accepting General Darren's union proposal. With you married to him, their power is secured. Once the weapons drive the people to desperation, they plan to rescue the situation, using stored override codes." Arian felt her breath catch. She had refused Darren's offer once, publicly and clearly. It hadn't been just politics. It had been her choice. But they had turned her refusal into a weapon. They were letting their own people suffer to gain power. Jonas stood now, quiet but alert. They think they can control the weapons? Naren nodded grimly. They believe the override codes still work. They don't, Jonas said. The weapons have moved past that. They're not following programs anymore. They're reacting to the minds that try to control them. The more someone reaches for power, the faster the machines turn against them. Arian turned away, her fingers curling into fists. Her heart pounded. She had led her people with pride and confidence, always believing their greatest danger came from outside. But the real betrayal had come from within. I won't let this continue, she said, her voice low but firm. If they're counting on me being scared, they've miscalculated. We'll need proof, Jonas said. Something undeniable. If we confront them without it, they'll say we're just panicking. Or worse, that you've gone soft because of a human. Her eyes flicked to him, but she didn't deny the possibility. She knew how fragile her reputation was with the elders. Then we go to the archive center, she said. If they left traces in the communication logs, that's where they'll be. Getting to the archive center meant navigating through the underlevels of the ship. It was dark and tight, the old maintenance tunnels untouched in decades. Arian led the way, map in hand, her flashlight casting long shadows on the metal walls. Jonas followed close behind, offering help only when she stumbled. They moved quietly, every sound magnified in the silence. As they neared the archive chamber, they paused at the door. Through the small window, voices drifted out, clear and calm despite the destruction outside. Arian peered inside. Counselor Vel and General Duran were standing by the communication console. Duran's voice was smooth. Once the next wave strikes the civilian sectors, she'll be out of options. Either she agrees to the Union, or she loses everything. Even if some lives are lost, Vel said coldly, it will be worth it. The people will be so frightened, they'll beg for stronger leadership. Arian's ears burned with rage. She turned to Jonas, who was already holding a small device, one of his analog recorders. They don't even know we're watching, he whispered. They think they're untouchable. Arian looked at them again, then at Jonas. We show the people. We let everyone hear the truth. He nodded, slipping the recorder into his coat. Let's get out before they notice. But as they turned to leave, a rumble shook the floor. A sharp alarm echoed down the hallway. They're coming, Jonas said. Arian didn't hesitate. She grabbed his arm and pulled him forward. We move fast. They can't follow us through the tunnels. They ran through the narrow passages, heartbeats loud in the dark. Behind them another alarm blared, this one deeper, angrier. The weapons were breaking through the hull. They were no longer testing. They were attacking with purpose. As they reached the exit hatch, Arian paused, catching her breath. Her skin was hot, her muscles tight with exhaustion. Jonas looked at her, his voice steady despite the chaos. They're forcing you to choose, power or people. I already chose, she said, meeting his gaze. I chose truth. And in that moment, Jonas smiled, small but real. In the shadows of betrayal, Arian found something stronger than pride or power. She found clarity. The machines were not the only enemies. Sometimes the worst threats wore familiar faces, but now she had what she needed, and she would not face it alone. The station trembled as the golden energy beams sliced deeper into its core. Warning sirens wailed, echoing through empty corridors and crowded shelters alike. Princess Arian stood in the center of the command chamber, her hands clenched tightly at her sides. The emergency lights cast everything in red, a color that reminded her of failure, of loss, of urgency too late. The recordings of Counselor Vel and General Duran had been broadcast across every channel hours earlier. The truth was out. The people had heard it, but the machines didn't stop. They didn't care about politics or justice. They had evolved past commands, past logic. They were hunting now, and they had found their prey. Arian turned toward Jonas, who stood beside her, calm despite the chaos. He was reviewing data from the last manual scans of the reactor. The golden energy was converging there, feeding on the core's quantum emissions. They're treating the reactor like a beacon, he said. It's drawing them in like moths to fire. They'll destroy everything, she said, her voice low. They already are, he replied. But we can stop them, not with power, with unpredictability. Arian looked at him, trying to draw strength from the quiet confidence in his eyes. She was used to sharp strategy, clean solutions. But now, she stood on the edge of something far messier: sacrifice. He wasn't offering a perfect plan. He was offering a chance, one built on instinct, on risk, on something deeply human. We'll have to disrupt the core, Jonas continued. Not shut it down cleanly, make it unstable, chaotic. Feed the machines something they can't adapt to. Her skin went cold. That could destroy the whole station. It could, he admitted. But it's the only way to make them collapse. If they can't map the energy patterns, they'll break apart. Arian took a breath, then nodded. Let's do it. Together they moved through the maintenance tunnels toward the reactor level. The sound of the station grew louder with each step. Metal straining, voices shouting, energy humming like a storm. When they reached the final door, they stopped. The golden glow was already visible beneath it, flickering like firelight. If we go in, Arian said, there's no turning back. Jonas looked at her. I know, but if this works, we don't just stop them. We prove something stronger than fear. She didn't speak. Instead, she leaned forward and kissed him. It was sudden, unexpected, but filled with every unspoken word. When they parted, he smiled, genuine and warm even in the shadow of disaster. Let's finish this, she said. They burst into the reactor room together. The sight was terrifying. Streams of golden energy curled around the containment chamber like living creatures. They pulsed with power, reacting to every signal, every movement. Counselor Vell was there, standing near the main console, his face pale with shock. What are you doing? He shouted. Oh, you'll ruin everything. You already ruined it, Arian replied coldly. This ends now. She ran to the side console, Jonas taking the manual station. Together they began flooding the core with irregular surges, sharp, random bursts of power. Sparks flew, systems groaned. The containment field flickered dangerously. The machines reacted at once. The golden tendrils coiled tighter, trying to process the strange signals. But the chaos only grew. The pulses had no pattern, no logic. They weren't part of any system. Jonas shouted over the noise, "Keep going, they can't map it." Vell lunged forward, trying to override the controls, but Arian blocked him. Her hands moved faster, every instinct guiding her. No neural enhancements. No shield. Just her, and the trust she had placed in a human she once dismissed. The light flared. The energy surged. And then, something broke. One by one, the golden streams cracked, splitting apart like shattered glass. The machines couldn't keep up. Their learned behavior, their adaptive attacks, all fell apart under the weight of randomness. They collapsed. Not with a scream, but with silence. Arian stood frozen, the lights flickering back to white. The reactor was still intact. The power was low but stable. The machines were gone. Jonas let out a breath. We did it. She turned to him, heart pounding. We survived. In the days that followed, the survivors emerged into a changed world. The station was damaged, but alive. Messages came in from other colonies, safety confirmed. The weapons had retreated everywhere. Whatever had changed here had rippled outward. The council met in full assembly, and this time, no one interrupted Arian when she spoke. She stood with Jonas beside her and explained what had happened. Not just the betrayal, but the lesson. Our greatest weakness was thinking we were untouchable, she said. That our technology made us superior. But survival didn't come from power. It came from trust. From unpredictability. From remembering how to feel, to fail, and to rise again. There were murmurs of agreement. Even the older members of the council could not argue with what they had seen. Jonas didn't speak much during the meeting, but Arian didn't need him to. His presence beside her said enough. Once she had said she would never trust a human, never love one, never need one. But now she knew better. That night, beneath the stars that had watched everything unfold, Jonas and Arian sat together on the quiet edge of the observation deck. "I still can't believe you kissed me in a reactor meltdown," he said, half smiling. She laughed softly. It was the perfect moment. He looked at her. "So, still, not planning to marry a human." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Let's just say I'm reconsidering." And somewhere, deep in the silence of space, the stars shimmered, watching two souls from different worlds find something that even the most advanced machines could never understand: hope.